So I'm gonna take a little break from sheep and wanted to get a video out explaining why. So if I look like a wreck right now, super sweaty, my shirt's completely like dirty and gross, and my glasses are fogging up, it's because it's 8:30 at night here and it is still like 85 degrees right now. And I just had the wonderful chore of separating my ewes from my rams. We weaned. I say we, usually I do this as a team with my wife, but she is away right now. See this? There's some fog. That's why I'm a wreck, because if you've ever weaned sheep, especially on your own, you know that it is truly awful. So I've contemplated this decision of taking a break from sheep for a while now. And so tomorrow, a friend of mine is going to come early in the morning and pick up all 6 of my ewes. These 6 girls behind me, 3 ewe lambs, 3 adult ewes. The longtime viewers of this channel know I have had many ups and probably even more downs with raising sheep. And so I've decided to sell all of my ewes and just focus on finishing out rams for the time being, while I figure out what I want to do. So I wanted to give some clarity, because I feel like on YouTube you have these, these people that make it look easy, and it's not easy. And so for anyone out there, sometimes taking a break or taking a step back is the right route to go. So I wanted to explain a little bit about my story and why I'm doing this. The first reason has got to be the losses that we've experienced. People who have watched us and followed us for a long time know that we started our flock in Utah, brought our core stock with us, which was 3 of my favorite ewes, and 1 ram, a really good stud ram that we bought. It has been almost exactly a year since those ewes came to us here, and I've lost 3 out of those 4 adults. So, I just want to be open and honest. Like, I paid $3,000 to have someone haul them from Utah to North Carolina for me, which is arguably about how much those sheep cost, although they came with about a half dozen lambs between all of them, so I got some lambs out of it. But point being, like, I just haven't been able to make it work out here. I really think that the Dorper in a humid climate really need a lot more land than I have, and better pastures. If you remember my first videos here of what my property looked like, I had no pasture, and I still feel like I don't have true pasture, because we just cleared land and I threw down seed as soon as I could, and we've had an incredibly hot early summer here, so all my grass is just bolted, and I've got tons of bushes coming back. So like, I don't have good pasture, I don't have a lot of land, and I feel like the Dorper really need to be rotated a lot more than I have the time and space to do out here, which is why I've had the losses. So that has been the biggest piece of the pie right here. I just need to reevaluate. I just need some time to reevaluate what I want to do. Okay, so something else that I don't think everyone realizes out there, YouTube is definitely not my full-time job, and sheep are the opposite of a full-time job. They take a lot of time, but they suck a lot of money. And I have a real job. I work a traditional 9-to-5 on a moderately demanding job. And I have a young family. It's just not a great time for me to be constantly being pulled in the direction of putting out fires with the sheep. And so raising rams, finishing out rams, which is what I intend to do for the foreseeable future, you're not worried so much about, you're not having them year round. You finish them out, you buy them when they're weaned, or in my case, I had them as lambs. But next year, I might buy some as weaned rams. I can control how many I have, so I can choose a low number, mob graze them across the whole pasture, give pasture ample rest time for good grass, for low parasite loads. I think that'll be a lot more doable for me, rather than breeding stock, which, first of all, you've got to deal with for part of the year separating sheep. So you need to have a lot of land and multiple paddocks, which I really only have two paddocks, both of them about 1.5 to 2.5 acres each. I just don't have the space for as many ewes as I thought I could have, and so I want to work out the system to see really what I can support with rams, and then if I want to go back to doing the full shebang with ewes, I'll have a much better number of how many sheep my land can actually support. So I mentioned this earlier, but my pasture's garbage. It's full of weeds and brambles, and just all the grass that I put out there in the early spring has just absolutely bolted. and we've just had this disgusting dry spell out here. So my pasture just isn't great, and that's another reason I think I need to take some time to really get good grass. That's something that people don't realize is you need grass if you want to raise sheep with low inputs. Now, yeah, I could do sheep here, but I mean, I could do all these. You know, I could have all these sheep out here, but I need to supplement, which is what I have had to be doing. I've been having to put out some alfalfa pellets for these girls and the rams, just to give them enough nutrients. And yeah, they find stuff to eat, but just because they can eat it doesn't mean that they're getting a lot of bang for their buck when they do eat it. So that's another thing. I want to take a step back, see if I can beef up this pasture. Which, again, if I mob graze those rams in really tight sections, I can do that. So another good reason to take it slower. If there was any one way to like sum up really why I'm going in this direction, it's because in Utah, sheep were so low input. They were the easiest animal that we had on our homestead. We also did rabbits and chickens, and sheep were by far the easiest animal. I didn't chemically deworm once, never had worms, had, you know, the biggest, fattest sheep, never fed them grain. Like, they're just awesome sheep out there. And then out here, they're the opposite of low input. Like, we have goats, we have ducks, we have chickens, and we have sheep. Sheep are by far the most work out here. There are people that can make it work. There are people around here that do this full-time or at least part-time. There are people with much larger flocks, much larger land, more experience than me. There are folks out here that can and do make it work. I have been really lucky to everyone on this YouTube community who has reached out to me, who's kind of near me. I've networked with probably about a half dozen people out here who make it work with other sheep and with Dorpers. So it can work. I have faith that it can work. That's why I'm not saying I'm done forever. I'm just taking a break from breeding sheep because we're still going to have rams. As I was building this script, I was just thinking, man, how many sheep have I had? So I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and I started with a trio of sheep. That's 2 ewes and a ram. So let me read you off some numbers about really what I've done in the past 2.5 years. So I bought these sheep 2.5 years ago, which seems like forever. And during that time, I've purchased 5 ewes and 2 rams. So out of all those sheep, I've only purchased 5 and 2. So yes, after my initial trio, I have made additional purchases. So between those 5 ewes and 2 rams that we purchased, we've also had how many lambs? 19 lambs over the past 2.5 years. So you put all those numbers together, I've had 26 sheep in my care. That's kind of cool to think about. I've sold some for breeding stock, I've processed some, I have lost 3 adults and 1 lamb, all in the past year. And, you know, in a weird way, nice to reflect on the numbers, to know that there's been a lot more going on than meets the eye. So the last thing that I want to say, and if you've stuck around to this late in the video, it's because you really care, so I appreciate that, and that's why I saved this to the end. I've been looking forward to this. I'm really excited for the guy who's taken these. He's got such a good situation. He's got dozens of acres of pasture, so not just land, but actual pasture, multiple paddocks. Like, these sheep are going to a really good home. I was very choosy. I've had a lot of people reach out over the past few months asking, hey, do you have sheep to sell? Do you have sheep to sell? These sheep are going to a great situation. Thanks for sticking with me, guys, on not just this video, but the whole darn journey. The whole point of doing this is scaling back on one thing so I can do other things. So I've got big plans for sheep. I've got big plans for the rest of the homestead, and just living that regenerative agricultural life on a small scale. So that was 3 months ago. 3 months ago is when I sold all of the ewes and have been left with these 4 rams ever since. Haven't lost any of these rams. Life has been much easier for me. Very happy with the pace of the homestead, with how things are going with the sheep. It's so much easier. I'm spending a lot less time doing things for them. I move them occasionally from one pasture to the next. It's the cooler season of the year. The parasite load is lower. I deworm the sheep, these rams, one more time. Been feeding them some probiotics throughout the summer, and now that we're in autumn, it's in really good shape. So I've been lucky enough to see how my ewes have been working for my new friend that I sold them to the next state over, and he's taking real good care of those sheep. Definitely not without setbacks, and he's learning and doing a great job, and the sheep are they just look really good in that season out there. Things have been working out. The lambs are growing real big with him, and he's got ewes, and I've connected him to a friend that I have that's up there that also raises Dorper, and he's getting a ram from him later, so things are working out for those sheep. So all that is to say, we're all on different journeys, but for my journey, I'm not looking back with any kind of regret of getting rid of those ewes. It was really good timing for me, and honestly, I've just been really enjoying the downtime of just having a handful of young rams that are doing what they do on my homestead.